Thank you. I've stood on top of the world twice, and I want to tell you something that I think might surprise you. Standing on the summits of the tallest mountains in the world, it doesn't always feel like winning. You're exhausted, you're cold, you're severely dehydrated, your throat's killing you, and you're acutely aware that if you make one bad decision, you might not come home. And that matters, because in mountain climbing, most climbers don't die on the way up, they die on the way down. And that lesson applies to life a lot more than we realize. I first learned this lesson when I was climbing Mount TEDxPurdueU. It's the world's 6th tallest mountain, and it's in Tibet. It was 3 a.m., pitch dark, brutally cold. I was alone, climbing by feel and by headlamp. When I looked up above me, and I thought I saw a star, but it wasn't a star. It was another headlamp, and it wasn't moving. As I got a little closer, here's what I saw. I saw a man perched against the side of a mountain. His oxygen mask was dangling below. He had one glove off, that bare hand exposed in those frigid temperatures. It was actually clutching a water bottle, and the top was off. He was unconscious, and he was in trouble. Instinctively, I yelled out, "Hey! Hey, buddy, hey!" And the silence sounded like thunder. He didn't respond. I tried again. "Hey! Hey, buddy, wake up!" He didn't respond. And many people had already climbed around him and over him. And I could understand why. Climbing at that altitude is dangerous. Everybody's wearing oxygen masks. People are concerned about their own survival. They're thinking about their own summit. They want to get home in one piece to their families. Every step that you take up there burns your legs. Every breath feels like fire coming through your lungs. But I realized something very simple in that moment. If someone is breathing, you help them. So as I got side by side to this person, I took my glove off, I put my hand down his neck and all the way down to his back, the small of his back. His body was still warm. I could feel his lungs working, just barely, but working. I very quickly put his oxygen mask on. I cranked up the flow. I put his one glove back on. I put the top back on his water bottle, and then I radioed for help. I had about 6 or 7 different languages all crackling through the radio. They were asking me all sorts of questions. What color is his jacket? How old do you think he is? What does he look like? Does he have a beard? I did my best to answer their questions. No doubt about it, this was intense. And then a Sherpa appeared, and he was holding something in his hand, and he put it right next to my face, and it was something quite large, and it was a big needle. This was dexamethasone. It's a powerful life-saving steroid. You see, I hate needles. But he put the needle in my hand. You give him the shot. No, I'm like, no. You do it. He gave it to me. I gave it to him. We go back and forth. No, you. We do this dance. In the end, he put the needle in my hand. He yelled the loudest, and he won the argument. So I gave a complete stranger a shot in the neck at about 25,000 feet. And about a minute or two went by, and man, it seemed like an eternity. And then he lifted his head up, he looked me right in the eye, and he goes, "So how are you?" It's okay to laugh. People laugh when I tell a story, and I laugh too. I am happy to report that he made it down safely, so the story ended well. But that moment changed the arc of my life. I did more than just help him breathe. I gave him hope. The number one need of a human being is to feel loved. And on that day, in the middle of the night, in that darkness and in that frigid cold, I did more than give him medical treatment. I gave a complete stranger my presence and a loving hand. And don't miss this. If you sit in love long enough, you begin to have hope. That hour and a half long stop wasn't part of my plan, and it nearly cost me my summit. I was about 400 feet from the top of this big mountain, and I ran out of gas. I couldn't go anymore. I sat down, and I sat down for a long time. And then the Sherpa I was sharing with someone else caught up to me and said, "Hey, Bo, I'll carry your skis to the top. Let's go." That was a very kind and generous offer. I turned down that offer, not because it was wrong, just because it was my personal challenge. And let's remember, we're here to enjoy people's journey and not judge it. So we came up with a compromise. We would dig a hole, we'd put the skis in the hole, and then I would summit the mountain with a lighter backpack, come back down to where my skis were, and ski down from there. So that's what we did. It worked. It took me about 4 hours to ski down this huge mountain. But something much bigger had already happened. Something cracked me wide open. And I decided, kind of almost from that moment on, that I was going to climb for something with a purpose beyond me. Something bigger than myself. And a lot of people ask me, where do you start? It's a great question. A great place to start is, what breaks your heart? As you can see, I have some glasses on, and they're pretty thick up here. And I was at an eye doctor visit a while ago, and they saw some things with my eyes, so I had to go see a specialist. They ran more tests and more tests and more tests. The specialist came into the patient room, and he said, "Bo, I've got some really bad news for you." I said, "Oh, what is it?" He goes, "Because of issues with your optic nerve, you very likely will go blind later in life." This was a crushing blow. This was a tough one to swallow. And then after I let that initial shock wear off, I said, I wonder what that would be like, to be blind. And he said, well, imagine closing your eyes right now. Do you think you could find the front desk? Do you think you could find your car in the parking lot? He made his point. So last year, I was lucky enough to climb Mount Everest from the north side, or the Tibet side. I'm one of the few people in the world, about 100 people, who have climbed Mount Everest from both the north side, which is Tibet, and the south side, which is Nepal. And for that expedition, I wanted to do something that would have a major human impact. I wanted to do something for blind people. So I started with my research. And here's what I learned. There's about 2.2 billion people on the planet, 2.2 billion, that have mild vision impairment to total blindness. There's about 295 million people that have moderate vision impairment to total blindness. And there's 43 million people on the planet that are blind. But here's what stopped me cold in my tracks. When I read this, my fingers froze over the keyboard. Most of those 43 million people are needlessly blind, meaning they don't have to be. According to the International Agency of the Prevention of Blindness, most of those 43 million people can have their eyesight restored with a simple one-time procedure. In most parts of the world, this costs about $20. It takes about 15 minutes, and it's permanent. And don't miss this. It's the most cost-effective surgical intervention in all of medicine. So this isn't a medical issue at all. This is an access and resource problem, and it's solvable. So last year, when I climbed the north side of Mount Everest, my wonderful contributors and I, we brought about 50,000 people from blindness to eyesight. I mean, come on. Come on. Thank you. But here's the part that a lot of people miss. For every one blind person, there's 5 people's lives that are affected. This is a sibling, a friend, a grandparent, a parent, a caregiver. So we just didn't change 50,000 lives. We unlocked 250,000 lives. And don't miss this. Our success is somebody else's miracle. Our success is somebody else's miracle. This is what I now call lighting your soul on fire. And when your soul's on fire, a lot of amazing things happen, and that fire spreads. There's a lot of people here today, and there's a lot of people who are going to watch this that are parents or grandparents. And we often wonder, how do we leave our family legacy so it spreads from generation to generation? Sure, leaving our kids some financial resources and opportunity is very important. But the number one thing that we can pass down isn't a portfolio, it's fire. If you pour gasoline on a pile of sticks or clothing, it's poison. But you pour gasoline on a small fire, and it burns brighter and brighter. I trained for Mount Everest for about a year, very tough training. My 2 boys saw their nearly 50-year-old dad, who's dyslexic, chase a dream. We inspire people, we marshal resources, people get their eyesight back, and families get their independence back. But then something unexpected happened. People we didn't know started to reach out to us. Hey, you don't know us, but we just donated $25,000 or $50,000 and much more to organizations around the world that are restoring people's sight. And they were inspired by my climb. But that's not the point here. The point wasn't my effort. The leverage was the key lesson of the summit. The leverage. And this isn't just my story. When your soul's on fire, you're often attracted to people whose souls are on fire as well. A friend of mine named Don Wenner moved 37 times by the time he was 17 years old because his parents struggled to find attainable housing that they could afford. And the pain that he went through as a boy lit his soul on fire. But then not too long ago, something unanticipated happened. Someone living at one of his communities stopped going to chemotherapy. Not because it wasn't working, but because he was lonely. So think about that. What he was really saying is, I'm going to let myself die. Let that sink in. 30 years ago, the average American had about 3 friends. Today, the average American has about 1.5 friends. The definition of loneliness is if you have 3 or less friends. There's lots of research out there that says being lonely is not good for your health. I'm happy to report that today that person is cancer-free and he's surrounded by friends. But it just didn't happen. What he did is he marshaled resources. He figured out, hey, who can bring him dinner on what days? Who can help him with his laundry? Who can drive him back to chemo? And it was those loving gestures that brought him back to chemo. And when your soul is on fire, you just think deeper. So Don's company is not only solving the attainable housing crisis, it's now actually solving the loneliness crisis in a very cool and creative way. What he's really trying to teach the world is if you want to go fast, okay, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. I'm honored and humbled to call Don a friend and a mentor. Don't miss this part. A human being can live about 30 days without food. We can live about a week without water. But we can't live one day without hope. And that hope spreads. The two most important moments of your life are the moment you're born and then the moment you know why. So why are you here? Why are you here? And if you don't know the answer, that's okay. Here's what I invite you to do. This is an operating system that I live by now. It's called Summit, Descend, Share. Summit, what mountain are you climbing right now? Or better, what mountain does your soul need you to start climbing right now? What breaks your heart? What gets you so fired up that you want to crawl through broken glass to fix it? Descend. What has your odyssey been teaching you? What has your odyssey cost you? What lessons have you earned on the way up, but then learned on the way down? Share. Who can you share your wisdom with? Who can you help? Who can you activate in your community or outside of your community? Because that's the true power of the compounding effect. A mountain doesn't remember how many times you stood on the summit, but people remember who stopped to help them and gave them hope. It's not how high we climb in life, it's how many people rise because of us. Thank you. Thank you.